Greetings, good people. What's up? My name is Luke Clarence. Welcome back to TCN Live, where we can give you all the hottest and top trending topics. So this is Emerson Mnangagwa's second term. Term number 2. What is going to happen next? So we're going to take a listen to Tendai Biti's discourse on President Emerson Mnangagwa's only 3 options on his exit strategy. And he's going to explain why he cannot extend his presidency term. But we are also going to discuss about what he can do about this, the loopholes in this.
The succession question is now with us because the constitution puts a full stop on Mr. Mnangagwa's term of office. He has 3 choices. Number 1 is to allow the constitution as it is and not to seek an amendment. Trying to seek an amendment to section 91 of the constitution and to section 300.
Option number 1 is to leave the constitution as is and not try to seek an amendment.
28 will create a conflict in the country, and by conflict, I'm not necessarily talking of physical, conflict, but it will create such a matrix of instability, including potentially the intervention of the army. Let's assume that that debate is not on the table. He's not going to do that, and for his sake and his legacy, I hope he's not seduced into the fallacy of thinking that he can actually amend the constitution. But I've heard him say 2030, and then the next question is who actually succeeds him.
The next question is who is going to succeed President Emerson Mnangagwa.
If he dies, and I hope he doesn't die, if he dies, the position is clear. Whoever is his vice president takes over. Remember, we removed the...
So in this case, it's a VP Chiwenga. Here Tendai Biti makes it clear. So, the fact that he is serving in the president's office doesn't stop him from running as president in his own capacity.
Running mates provisions of Chapter 5. But if he doesn't die, it means that the succession question is with us. Does it mean that Vice President Chiwenga will take over, or there will be another war towards succession, just like the same uncertainty that we experienced in the period of President Mugabe? So to me, these 4 things are going to be critical. 4 or 5 things are going to be critical. Number 1, are we able to create a soft landing for Zimbabwe in light of a contested election? Number 2, are we able to carry out the massive structural economic reforms that are required going forward? Number 3, are we able to carry out a program of international re-engagement that can break the barriers of isolation? Number 4, is Zimbabwe capable of succession? So far, we've been...
Okay, question number 4 is Zimbabwe capable of succession, right? He makes reference to the Mugabe era, succession problems, term extensions. But during the Mugabe era, who initiated the term limit expansion? It was not Robert Gabriel Mugabe himself, but rather it was his loyalists, people around him. Remember those days we had terms like Gamma Talks. Then came a time we had terms like the G40, the Lacoste faction, etc. All that speculation that was there then. But Robert Gabriel Mugabe never initiated his term expansion. Rather, his loyalists who claim to have been pleased in his work, right? Those are the ones who were seeking term expansion and expansion and expansion. When Mugabe actually said, I want to rest, guys, I'm tired, I want to rest, right? That is what then led to the intervention of the guys in uniform, the uniformed forces, where they said we want to remove the criminals around Comrade Robert Gabriel Mugabe. So now the issue of extending term limit, it's possible, it can happen, it can, yes, but it's highly improbable from whence we are coming from in this second republic is highly impossible, because it's one of the foundations that this second republic was founded upon. However, it can still happen.
Unable as a country, 44 years of independence, this country has not been able to carry out a succession. It was not a legal succession in 2017. It was a military coup. So this is a great test for the main actors. It is also a great test for Zimbabweans. So we as citizens, I think, have a say. We mustn't be innocent bystanders. So I submit that there must be agents.
Okay, here he's saying we as citizens, we have a say. Here he's not speaking on behalf of Triple C. He's speaking as a Zimbabwean in his capacity as Tendai Biti, as Zimbabwean, right? So right now we're just going to dive where he dives straight into the constitution, actually making reference to the laws he is speaking of here, that those that avoid the term extension. Remember the new constitution, our main focus was that issue of term limit, right? So it's very strict on that.
Yeah, so good evening, Zimbabwe. My name is Tendai Biti. Zimbabwe's drive into the unknown. It's quite clear that in 2013, we came up with a new constitution for Zimbabwe, which was adopted by the referendum that was carried out on the 21st of March 2013, in respect of which 93% of the participants, representing about 3 million people, voted for this constitution. So this constitution, in section 89, defines the office of the president, and in chapter 5 of the constitution, it sets up the office of the president. In section 91, subsection 2 of the constitution is very clear. It says a person is disqualified for election as president or vice president if he or she has already held office as president under this constitution for 2 terms, whether continuous or not, and for the purposes of this subsection, 3 or more years service is deemed to.
For the purposes of this subsection, 3 or more years is deemed to be a full term, to be a term. So if President Emmerson Mnangagwa serves for 2.9 years, then it's not a full term. So he may serve 2.9 years and step down, then come again for next election. That is a loophole, that is possible. That's how he can run a 3rd term, because the 2nd term wouldn't be a full term if he runs it for no more than 3 years. And per 3 years he pop up. My holidays, do holidays count? Kuti pagore, right? Akaenda pa holiday for certain number of months, maybe 3-4 months, right? Tikazo eda anagona kusakwana 3-4 years. My years are true calculator. How are we calculating these years? Again, kopanega pa holiday. Do we consider that? Is the law clear on that? So ipapo paritrick or apastrick, depending on what the law says.
Be a full term. This therefore means legal that Mr. Mnangagwa, to the extent that he has served from 2018 and is now on his 2nd term, cannot and will not be eligible to be president of the Republic of Zimbabwe again. But there are, as you said, we are entering into a unknown territory. Your topic is presumptive of the common cause legal position that the Constitution imposes a term limit. But what your topic fails to recognize that elsewhere on the African continent, it has become fashionable to actually change term limits and for sitting presidents to actually push for 3 terms. We have seen the attempts of Abdoulaye Wade in Senegal to.
Okay, he is making reference to other African leaders who extended terms.
The president, executives in the army, the chief justice, and many others. So the Constitution says in section 328, subsection 6, that where if a constitutional bill is passed by 2/3 of parliament and it amends.
Now, if a constitutional bill is passed by 2/3 of parliament, right? So they can do that referendum in parliament, and whatever amendment they're going to do, if it's passed by 2/3, and ZANU-PF has 2/3 majority in parliament right about now, even though a lot of people will not admit it, they have 2/3 majority in parliament right now. They almost doubled Triple C's members of parliament, so they have that power, irregardless of how many constitutional amendments they have to do. So in this video, big up to Grace Chiripo, Tendai Biti saying these amendments cannot be done concurrent, one after another, in sequence or in series, but they can do this amendment yema election etem one yachona vomboisia vomboita dzimwewo kana kuti dzekuma dzemumwe mutemo, then do another one, right? So kuspesa, it means nothing again, or it means something. What it only means is it's a hurdle, right? But that hurdle is not hard because they have 2/3 majority in parliament. 2013 pawai samtemo e Triple C MDC, then vai besane kuti tinowana ma MP akawanda, I do not know the impact of delimitation on my number of my MPs avo, or what transpired here. Say vakaita ma MP mashoma here, I do not know that. Anyways, let's continue.
A constitutional term, i.e. it increases a constitutional term. That constitutional amendment must be subjected to a referendum. This is so in terms of section 328, subsection 6 of the Constitution.
That amendment must be subjected to a referendum. What referendum are we talking about here? Are we talking about a referendum that only parliamentarians are going to take part in? Or it's a referendum like the one that brought the Constitution into being, where every Zimbabwean is going to vote?
Now, one can get a referendum. One can actually get a yes in a referendum. We know that Zimbabwe's political context is not even.
Okay, he says one can get a yes in the referendum.
We've just come from a contested election, and I'm going to come to that election very soon. However, when we negotiated this constitution, and I was one of the negotiators, we put in a provision, section 320.
Okay, Leroy G says no doubt Chamisa will be tempted to push the presidential term. That is very true. They may agree on this because Nelson Chamisa also has to push his own term, but that depends on whether ED wants to extend. Personally, I don't think ED would want to extend his presidential term. It's highly unlikely on the type of a person he is, what he stands for, his ways of doing things. I do not think he will extend his term. Rather, he will step down within 1,000 days to ensure a smooth transition into the next leader, who is going to be a ZANU-PF leader also.
8, subsection 7, which makes it clear that a constitutional amendment extending a term of office shall not benefit
Constitutional amendment extending a term of office shall not benefit who?
The incumbent.
The incumbent.
So if Mr. Mnangagwa
Extension is out of the question, even if there is amendment, right? Election amendment shall not benefit the incumbent. That makes it really, really clear, inextendable. The term cannot be extended by the one who is there, but they can extend for maybe for the next one. All right, so it's inextendable for the incumbent. Yeah, right. Again, there's a loophole there. I think we talked about it. What does incumbent mean? What does it mean? Right? What does this mean?
Mnangagwa, in his wisdom or lack thereof, were to push for a constitutional amendment to extend or to remove the limitation, the two-term limitation provided by Section 91, subsection 2, that amendment would not benefit him. So if you want to amend the Constitution, to amend constitutional terms, to increase constitutional terms, the law says it can't benefit you. Now, we saw in Senegal that President Wade tried to do this. So we put in a provision in the Constitution, which we called colloquially the Abdoulaye Wade provision. This provision is Section 328, subsection 7 of the Constitution. And this says now that, so you now have two things. The first one is the amendment to the Constitution that you would have done, that requires the referendum. Then you have a provision, that subsection 7, that says you can't benefit. Now, the Constitution then says, if you want to amend Section 328, subsection 7, which says you can't benefit from an amendment of the Constitution which is extending a time limit, you have to go to another referendum. But here is the double protection. The two referendums, the one in respect of which you are amending the Constitution to extend the term limit, and the...
So here it's sealed, right? It is clear what the Constitution of Zimbabwe says, right? And it is also clear that anything in there can be amended. Even that clause where it says the incumbent cannot benefit from the amendment, that can also be amended, right? The terminology they may vex, but everything and anything can be amended. It depends on the order of amendments, which law is amended first, right? Big up to Patience Tarisai Santana. Jiri say. But however, this was an eye-opening discourse by Mr. Tendai Biti. Here, it's just good that in Zimbabwe we still have people who can use brains and facts, not emotions. I think that is the path we all should be taking. That is the path we should all be taking. All right, that was it for now. Dr. Clarence is the name. TSN Live is the channel. As always, thank you for watching, and I'm signing out.